This is the shortest and maybe the hardest hitting book for men burning out in their 20s. And this book got recommended to me at the perfect time when I had just quit what I thought was my dream job at 28 years old. So if you feel like you're burning out, I'm going to tell you everything I learned from this book, including 3 ways the main character and we all cope with burnout, which actually traps us in burnout. Now, I actually found this book through the YouTube algorithm, which seems like it listens better than our therapists sometimes. This video popped up by Dry Creek Dwayne, who's a philosopher cowboy talking about how men are burning out in their 20s these days. Now, I'm not really familiar with his content, but he really defied my expectations. By all appearances, scruffy beard, weather-worn face, big cigar, southern drawl, I expected this to be a video about what he seems to be an archetype of, toughness. Pick yourself up by your cowboy bootstraps, so to speak. But I was surprised to essentially hear him say the opposite, that we expect too much out of men in their 20s these days, that they're still kids in many ways, and that they need to be given more freedom. Dwayne gives a book recommendation, no less, to back up his idea, and it's very counter-narrative, especially from a man of his caliber. This book is really more of an essay, only 24 pages, but if you're already burning out, it's the perfect length. And since it's published in this format, we can call it a book and give ourselves credit for reading one. I'm talking about The Apostate by Jack London. Even though the protagonist in this book is only 16 and is a starved child laborer, Dwayne says this is the perfect metaphor for men burning out today at age 26. Our main character here, Johnny, is forced to go to work every day by his mother. This sows the seeds of bitterness and resentment for Johnny when he's asked to sacrifice his childhood and his future for the childhoods and futures of his siblings. And this just goes to show how when we do too many things for extrinsic incentives, like appeasing our parents, trying to impress future partners, or just checking the boxes of adulthood, we stunt our empathy and mute our curiosity. Eventually, praise didn't even mean anything to Johnny, even when he was hailed as the perfect worker, because to him that meant he had become the perfect machine. Johnny essentially says, "All my wasted movements were eliminated. My days all became alike. My mind fell asleep. I no longer dreamed even of love. Dreams got relegated to that category of unattainable ideas." Besides, he couldn't worry about the future. He always had bosses and bills to keep him worried about the present. He had become a man early in life. And to quote Dwayne from his video, one of the saddest things is a man who is only 24 years old. So how did the main character cope and trap himself in this burnout? And how do we do the same? The first way is that he grew to accept things as the way they are, both the monotony and the futility of defiance. Small tastes of former pleasures, morsels of hope, just increase cravings and remind you of what is all but lost. The second way, he became prideful of the dignity of work and contemptuous of anyone who didn't work as hard as him. And the third way is that he and we just forget the way of being in childhood because of the relentlessness of time and the fickleness of memory. And what does this book say about what that is, what we're missing out on when we forget? This book says, in simple terms, it's 3 things. 1, to be able to fully experience your days. 2, to be able to fully rest at night. And 3, and most importantly, to have a mental life. But instead, we and Johnny mostly oscillate between 2 states, stress and boredom. And we call that a living, even though not much happens to be able to distinguish one day from another. When this happens, either to Johnny or to us, there's no joyousness in life. It breaks us, it broke Johnny, we fall ill, and we're forced to recover and reflect as he was. And when this happens to him, because he actually has time to experience his days, to rest at night, to have a mental life, he can reflect and he thinks about his life. And what he thinks about is he calculates how much movement he's done working in these factories over the year and concludes he's always been working. And I would say he's been in a state of constant agitation. He also takes time to contemplate a tree outside of their apartment. And the author kind of leaves up to interpretation what this means. But I think what he's contemplating is the opposite of the state that he's always been in, a state of stillness, grace, freedom, rather than constant movement, chaos, and agitation. With this 1-week experience of just being able to rest and reflect, he decides to quit and never work again. And these are some of the comments I think Dwayne had about this part of the book that I think are really insightful. If you push too much too soon, you might get a modicum of success, but it comes at a cost in the long run. Each of us only has so many repetitions in the bank. And if you use too many too early, you burn out your brain and learn to hate what steals too much energy away from you. So you lose any innate strength or interest in an activity that could have otherwise served you well under different circumstances. Johnny had only lived for others, so he had to abandon them. He never experienced his days, so he had to go on an adventure. And he never decided his direction, so he had to learn from his decisions. And I'll end with some more of Dwayne's comments. If you tell a man in their 20s they need to have it all together, they will burn out. This comes from the weight of responsibilities and burdens that they haven't grown into yet, which sucks the joy out of life and undermines the point of living. Dwayne says a 26-year-old kid is still a kid. But what do you guys think? Do men in their 20s need more freedom, or do they need more responsibility? Let me know in the comments below. And thanks for watching.